Good evening, everyone. It's Sal, Stretford Post. How you all doing? Or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, guys. It is Sal Warner, Stretford Post. It is Chatterbox. Thank you so much for joining me today, of course, guys. And whatever you're doing, wherever you are, hope you're having a good time, guys. Look, we have been talking about Man United all week, of course, about transfers, about who we're going to sign, who we're not going to sign, what players we're going to get through the door, what players we're not going to get through the door, how much we're going to spend. You know, where's the money coming from? You know, and I mean, it's a big cycle of sinister negativity. You know, I mean, arguments among fans. You know, and now we've got Scott McTominay's comments, of course, guys, which has caused a little bit of a stir. Guys, I've got a very special guest on. He's been on the show before, good friend of mine and the show. Please, could you welcome the legend that is Jamie Jackson? What's going on, my friend?
I'm great. How are you, Sal?
I'm very well, man. Good to see you again. Good to see you. What's been going on?
Well, it's sunny here in my part of Cheshire. I actually live 2 villages along from Wayne Rooney. I don't quite have the same sort of house as he does, but it's very leafy and the sun's shining, so I can't. How about you? You're looking as handsome as ever. Oh,
thank you, mate. Thank you. It's good to get a compliment for once. I haven't had a compliment in years. Goodness me. Yeah. It's Man United. They're stressing me out, mate. You know what I mean? That's what it is. I'm just looking old these days. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you too. Likewise, brother. Likewise, man. No, I want to get into Man United chat. I know it's a thorn in our sides, you know, talking about Man United. Seems like the only club in the world. I know there's other clubs in the world and stuff, and we should be grateful for what we have. I mean, and stuff like that. But, you know, I want to talk about, there's conflicting stories about Man United, how much they're going to spend in the summer. Is it FFP compliant, PSR compliant? You know, are we going to sell players? Is it going to be based on experienced players, or is it just going to be up and coming players, bargain hunting and stuff like that? What have you heard in regards to Man United's transfer strategy, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing, as always, is the money, and it is sort of as it kind of was in that they have to sell to buy properly. There's a few, you know, but they really. So, for example, Rashford. You know, if Villa want him, it's 40 million, right? That's the clause. They have to trigger it, yes. And then obviously Marcus has to want to go there because you can't make him go anywhere, right? It doesn't work like that. And that would then be about wages. I mean, he's on the thick end, as I'm, you know, probably sure most people know of, 365, 370, yes, at United. That contract was signed 2 summers ago. Is that right? Summer 2023, yes. I think he's still got another 2 or 3 years left on it, therefore. But why I mention him is obviously he's one of the obvious ones. So we know the figure. But that's only for Villa, by the way. Yeah, you know, if he goes elsewhere, it's a different deal. So it'd be 40 million plus you would get in, plus obviously the wages you would save, which is a heck of a lot, right? I mean, I haven't done the maths exactly, but it's, you know, it's a lot of money in wages that be saved. I mean, times, you know, it's call it 350, but it's more like 370. Times 52 times 3, right? Because there's 3 years left. So, you know, you I don't know what's that. It's a lot of money. I don't want to get it wrong, but it's, you know, 15, 20, maybe 25 million. So suddenly you've got 65 million pound there. I know whoever you get in, you have to pay the wage to, but trust me, whoever you get in to replace, say, Rashford, he's not going to be on that sort of money, right? So you can sort of say more or less that if he is sold, and remember, if he was to go elsewhere, it might be more, but if he is sold, suddenly you've got 65 million pound, right? Which kind of gets you a proper player. I don't know whether you'd agree, but you know, that's a good ballpark figure. And it might even get you 2, actually, depending on, because you mentioned a very interesting thing there, depending on the profile. Is it going to be young? Is it going to be old? It'll be like I think they're going to be looking for Dorgus, yes. You know, Patrick Dorgu looks a very good signing. I think it's 25 million. I mean, it's very early days, but the way he's looking, he looks ideal for Amorim. 25 million. You know, if you think. Let's sort of not dream, but let's sort of say they're really good and they can get 3 players in of Dorgu quality. You know, if Dorgu goes on as he is doing now, let's say 30 million, I think that's doable, right? That's 90 million before you get to wages, but I think that's doable because I've not even gone on to like Mainu or Garnacho, one of those 2 possibly leaving. Now, obviously, you have to replace these players, right? You understand what I mean? But the point is, Rashford isn't a player for you anymore. I don't think he'll ever play for United again. He might play in a friendly, right, like Sancho did last summer, you know, against Rangers and on tour, put him in the shop window sort of thing. But I don't think he'll play again for Manchester United. So you have to replace him anyway. And so I think they were going to try and be nimble in the market. You tell me, let's say it's Garnacho, you're probably looking at about the same price, maybe a little bit more. It just depends. He's a bit younger and all the rest of it. And so there you would have enough for like, let's say you sell 2 players, like Rashford and Garnacho. I'd say that money generated there would generate enough for, say, three Patrick Dorgers, if you understand what I mean, that sort of price. Well, 3 players, if they're right players, is a good addition to this Ruben Amorim project. And that's before you get to whatever else of business they might do, like Casemiro, maybe getting him off the wage bill, because again, he signed, I think the summer before, wasn't it? It was Ten Hag's first summer, but he's still got 2 years left. You'd get a nominal fee for him, maybe. So I think you can be optimistic, because Manchester United are not the only club affected by these FFP things, right? So the market, it's not like Manchester United are the only ones who go into the market like with not too much money and having to wheel and deal. You know what I mean? Because it's the same for everyone else, more or less. That's bringing the prices down, because suddenly people don't have. So that's what I mean. So they can be competitive, not as competitive as they would like to be. They haven't got 100 million player up the sleeve for like I don't know who it might be, but a standout striker or etc. But I think this is a test of basically Ratcliffe, who's running the show, Wilcox, who's basically the new football sporting director, even though he's still the technical director. Brailsford, who's sort of Ratcliffe's right-hand man, is kind of like the bridge sometimes between, the coaching staff and Ratcliffe. And obviously Amorim to identify 2 or 3 players. If they're any good, I think you can have a good summer. You know what I mean? I really think you can. I think Amorim, I keep on going on about Dorgu. The only reason being is it's the only proof so far we've got of, Amorim's eye for a player, right? And so far he looks like a good eye, yeah? So I think it could be a refreshingly good summer. Now, I am glass half full, as you well know, Sal, about anything, If it rains all the time, I'm thinking the sun's going to come out, sort of thing. So I'm always going to be optimistic. But I do think you've got a really good, a good competitive chance of doing well in this market. But they're going to have to be smart. They're going to have to earn the money, these people, yeah? That, Amorim's there because he's supposedly, a top coach, and also part of which is being a top reader of players, right? So let's see what you've got. And the rest of them, well, let's wait and see. I mean, it's interesting. I did hear something relatively recently that Wilcox was rated one of the better judges of a young player at City, because he was at City, wasn't he? Begaristine, obviously, is the wheeler and dealer there, sort of really rated his eye for a player. And so, he ended up in charge of the academy there. You'd like to think he was good at that, otherwise he wouldn't be in that job. But what I'm saying is, let's see what you've got then, Jason. This summer, here's a big chance for you, because there's no Ashworth there. You're basically the head sort of football, I don't know what you want to call it. So, yeah, director of football. So, we're talking about elite sport. These are supposed to be elite operators. But, if you ask me, you're going to get a Gregores, or however you say his name, the Sporting striker, for 100 million or whatever his release clause is, I think that's kind of unlikely, only because you have got a couple of strikers there who are probably not quite good enough. But I don't necessarily think striking or a striker is the priority. If you look at that team, and we'll all have opinions about this, right? I think the problem you've got is creating chances as much as putting them away, right? Yes, they are not prolific. Don't get me wrong. Oyland and Xerxes are never going to be Harry Kane or even sort of halfway. That's what I mean. I get that. But I just don't think there's enough chances being created in that team. It's a bit flat. And so I think the issue is more about the build-up play, which obviously involves, wing backs, central midfielders, a bit of flair, a bit of creativity. And then, hopefully someone like, I mean, if you put it the other way around, if Højlund and Xerxes could contribute, let's say, 12 Premier League goals each, right, which might seem a bit fanciful, but it's not loads, is it, right, next season, and then you've got others chipping in, that could be the way forward until, as I've said to you before, in 2 summers' time, they reckon all the cuts, getting rid of redundancies, getting rid of the free lunches, cutting the scouting department, all the rest of it, in 2 summers' time, then they will have some serious money. And they actually think, because it's still the biggest money-making club in the world, make no mistake about that, United makes a lot of money, right? A heck of a lot of money. Because of that, suddenly, wait a minute, it'll be back to maybe Fergie time or early Woodward time, when you could bring Di Maria in for 59.4 million or Pogba for like 90 million, whatever it was. It might be back to that sort of, so be hopeful, be optimistic. Don't be too stressed out.
It's easy to say, isn't it, as a United fan. I think it's just a little bit of a circus at the moment in regards to the social media era. I was raised without social media. It was just the newspapers. A couple of newspapers used to read the stories, and that was it. That's where it ended. I used to look for the transfers. That's it. All the other politics and stuff like that, I didn't even know about. You know what I mean? And things you wouldn't have known before, now. And I try to stay away from it because it is a little bit of a cesspit. I do think that there are Man United fans out there a little bit impatient. I think that they just need to relax a little bit. Calling for the manager's head after 5 months. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit crazy for me if I'm being real. It's not what I was raised upon as a Man United fan. I wasn't raised like that. You know what I mean? You got to give the guy a chance. He hasn't got any of his players in there, and as you said, it is a chance for Ineos to prove themselves to us in the summer, and let's see what happens. I don't care if we get £100 million player or a £20 million player. If they're good enough, they're good enough at the end of the day. That's what ultimately matters for me. I mean, there's a lot of revisionism going on in regards to Rashford and players of that nature, Anthony and players, and the bottom line is I don't think they didn't make it at Man United. I mean, Rashford did better. Of course, he was there many years. He had the odd season where he done very well, but sometimes you just need to move on, I feel, in regards to Rashford. And sometimes, you can become stale at a place. You can stay at a place too long, and I think that's what's happened with Rashford. What are your thoughts on the Rashford situation? You obviously said there that you don't think he's ever going to play for Man United again. Do you think it's he could be? Is Aston Villa he'd be going to, or he could be going elsewhere, maybe in Europe?
It's a good question. As I understand the situation, his camp are confident that there will be other offers for him. Maybe from some big domestic clubs, big Premier League clubs. I mean, just to rewind a little bit, I agree with you. I was actually, I know he began when he was 17, but I looked up his record the other day. He played the best part of 500 games for United. That's a heck of a lot, right? You know what I mean? So he has had a heck of a run at it. And when you sort of said there, he's never really made it properly. Yeah, he's had a good season, as you rightly said. You're completely right in your analysis. I completely agree with you. And I just think the relationship's broken down. From what I'm told from his side, let's put it that way, it's very remote. He'll ever play compared. It'll almost have to be a new manager and a new ownership. A whole new thing. And even then, but he still loves the club. Let's make that clear. It's his football club. But so yeah, I think he will leave. Or I'd be staggered if he's still there. Unless it's another season loan. Like Sancho to Chelsea this year. And I think, I think he will leave. I think. It may well be Villa. I mean, what I'm interested to see is he's done all right last 2 or 3 games. He scored a couple and assists, and he got back in the England squad. Can he keep it up? Because this is the thing with him. Yeah, I always say about it. He blows hot occasionally, but he mostly blows cold. Do you know what I mean? He's not. You can't rely on him like Kane. And what you just said then, he's not really good enough for where United deserve to be. And I don't mean it in an entitled way because I'm not a United fan, right? But I mean in terms of. You're Manchester United. It's not Nottingham Forest, my team that I support when a kid. You're all right, but they're like small fry. This is Manchester United. Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. It's Manchester United. It's like Real Madrid or something. You know what I'm getting at. So you need these top players, and that's what they're working on. And I'm pretty sure that even if he score like 25 goals, it's not going to happen between now and the end of the season. I don't think United want him back either. I think it is over. Yeah, from their side as well. Thank you very much, Marcus. It was lovely like last year sort of thing. So I think he is off. And so, there's a vacancy in the team. And then you look throughout the team. The main new one for me is interesting, right? In my opinion, as someone who watches a lot of football, luckily, and obviously United all the time at home, it's just my opinion. I'm not an expert, I'm not a top elite coach, but I'm not so sure what Amorim is doing with Mainu. But I get that, he hasn't got the wheels to be an up and down sort of number 6, however you want to describe, but he's a very good player. And certainly in this moment where you haven't got much fantasy, if I could put it that way, in the sort of middle of the park, right? I mean, you tell me, apart from Mainu, have you got anyone else who is sort of creative? Mainu could score a goal out of nothing. Remember, his first goal, was it against Wolves? His goal out of nothing?
Yeah, yes, won us the game 4-3. Yeah.
And actually, I've just said he hasn't got the engine to get up and down, but wait a minute, wasn't the FA Cup winner a break, from deep inside your half, and, Rashford to Garnacho, and there's Mainu. You know what I mean? So he has got. He's not particularly fast, but so what I'm trying to say is, I go back to Amorim. I'm thinking, I wonder if he's got this slightly wrong with Mainu. I get that he's got a system and he's the manager or head coach and all that, but I would be fighting to keep him because he is good enough to be in a top Manchester United squad, right? Who knows whether he'd get in a team when it's like completely, it's like a City squad or something. But you know what I mean? I think he's good enough. And let's see what he's like with other top players. It's very difficult to judge anyone when you're in a struggling team, right? But But by the way, he did well last season in a struggling team. Scored the FA Cup winner. Started for England. He's got to have something about him. And so I think this is where Amorim's made a misstep. Again, just in my humble opinion. But he needs help. He needs competition. Football nowadays.
I agree. I think what the thing is that young players are always going to be notoriously inconsistent throughout history. Young players are always going to be inconsistent. You're looking at Kobbie Mainoo from his first season. We were all ranting and raving about Kobbie Mainoo, England international after 6 months, whatever. Played in the Euros final, for England, and then obviously there's going to be a little bit of a downturn. I thought, and I feel like the pressure that has been put on him is far too much. I think the same with Garnacho, the same with Rasmus Højlund, is that they don't have any players there that they can look up to. Back in the day, they had sorry, I gone off a little bit. You had Andy Cole, you had Roy Keane, you had Dennis Irwin, Peter Schmeichel, Ryan Giggs. These young players came in and they could look up to these players. Yeah. These guys are winners. I just don't think. I know we got some good players, but I just don't think we got any inspirational players in our squad that can grab you by the collar and say, "Come on, let's go." You know what I mean? And I feel like some of the players are getting a little bit comfortable in regards to that. But Mainoo is going to be a very good player. We forget his age. Was he 20 years old? He's going to be a very good player. I think if we sold him, I think it'd be a mistake. It's the same with Garnacho. Garnacho changed the FA Cup final. He scored a goal in the FA Cup final, and he's obviously got talent. But when you're not scoring for Man United, it must be the most pressurized team to play for because the fans are on your back. You don't score for a couple of games, and that's it. The fans are on your back, and then you start making rash decisions, not making that pass when you should have made that pass. Taking ridiculous shots that go miles over the bar. And I think that's what's happening with Man United. It's a little bit of a toxic environment going on in there at the moment. And I think it's very hard for players to perform. And that's why you see great players who come into Man United and they play well for a few months and then suddenly they start drifting away. I mentioned Mazraoui. Mazraoui was an 8 out of 10 every single game when he first came to Man United. Now he's like drifting down 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 and things like that, and it is a little bit concerning, but we have to stick by the young players, especially. I'm all for that. And I think we've also got Collier. We've got other players coming through the system as well who are really good players. A player that Man United are looking at is Liam Delap. I like Liam Delap. But is he going to elevate Man United into the... If Arsenal go and sign like a Gutierrez or Liverpool go and sign Zubamendi and we sign Liam Delap, is it going to elevate Man United? Is it going to get us to up that league?
It's a very good question. Obviously, I saw a bit of him when he was at City, yeah. And I don't know if the ex-City player we're discussing that they might be going after was Cole Palmer. I think I could give you an easier answer. I think it would elevate United because I know he has not scored for a bit, but he's a very good player. Delap. It's a difficult. My instinct is no. Yeah. The only reason why I'm slightly reluctant to be so definitive is, he's a young player, and you just never know in football or sports. Some people, but I don't know. Again, where United to be shopping, but if we're talking about a phase of United where, all right, I know you'd love to, but maybe you're not going to challenge the title next season, but it's just about building the team up, evolving it. So, as I just sort of said before, in 2 years' time, you have got the money to sort of buy Palmer, for example, whoever it might be. That maybe Delap's a good signing for the time being. Obviously, I'm talking about where you'll be shopping, or you were asking me that. I was talking about sort of Dorgan kind of price range. Delap, I imagine, I don't know for sure, but they're probably going to go down, right, Ipswich. So, and I imagine, therefore, he's going to want to leave. And United is still United. And so his price is not going to be amazingly high, right? So I can see the thinking about it. But you tell me, is he fast? Because one of the first things I always want to know about a striker especially, but anyway, anyone really across the forward line is, are they fast, right? You can't be a headless chicken, but if you haven't got pace, you've got to be a heck of a footballer, a bit like Palmer, right? Not particularly fast, but, but he's a centre forward, right? And I think the way Amorim wants to play, or certainly has been playing, is a little bit counter-attacking, right? So you need a fast striker, and that's one thing Højlund does have is a bit of pace. So I would be disappointed as a United fan, which I'm not, if he was signed. But I do have to have the caveat that you just never know, and it's kind of the same as what you were talking about, the young players. If Højlund emerges, for example, and it's like the Brian Robson team, he goes into the squad. No one gives a what's it if he's a world beater or not straight away, because he doesn't need to be. The problem is you haven't got, as you basically just said, you haven't got any world beaters, or maybe one, Fernandes maybe. But you know what I mean? You haven't got any inspirational players. You haven't got an established championship winning team. You've got like a team that's on its knees. So anyone who goes into that team is kind of almost looked upon as, or could they be the answer? And it's too much for anyone unless you're Lionel Messi. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're unbelievable, you're never going to be that player. So to go back to Delap, City let him go, but they made a mistake over Palmer. But I didn't see enough and I didn't see loads of it. But when I did see him, I didn't see enough to think, oh, he's got a little bit something there, But that might be at the moment if he's looking at Amorim thinking, I don't care how many chances this team creates, Højlund and Xerxes are going to miss, I don't know, 99 out of 100. If that's what he's thinking, then he's obviously looking elsewhere around. And Delap's got a few goals, doesn't he, in a struggling team, right? But again, it's one season, isn't it? That can happen. It's just, I can't believe he would be top of their list as a striker. I just can't see that, because it's still going to be an outlay of 35, 40 maybe, plus the wages. That's one of your main transfer pots, for a player gone this summer. But it might come to it that there isn't any other options for the money they've got. And this is where they've got to be clever, pull some rabbits out of the hat. It's possible. Ferguson was a genius as a manager. He was a one-off, right? Which means that he could pull rabbits out of the hat. So what have you got, Ineos? What have you got, Amorim? Have you got the ability to somehow magic something? Because I think you're going to need it a little bit. It is a shame that £72 million was spent on Højlund, right? Just going back to him. It's not his fault. And I've just said before that he's in a struggling team. He's a young kid. And it's not as if United are creating loads of chances. But imagine if you had that money now. You'd like to think it was spent better. That 72 million or whatever it is. But, we are the Anthony thing. We've suddenly gone from a situation where Anthony can be bought for 80 million, Casemiro 65. It was like 2 or 3 years ago, to like basically, metaphorically speaking, you're looking down the back of the Old Trafford sofa for like 50 pence to buy. Do you know what I mean? It's suddenly just switched like that. And I get that the part of it is, the financial fair play and COVID and all the rest of it. But it has quickly gone like that. But this is elite sport. You have to have experts in place who can sort this out. Otherwise, what are you in this job for? Why are you at your Manchester United if you cannot sort this out?
Absolutely spot on. And if you couldn't afford it, why did you buy the football club on a percentage? I mean, if you couldn't afford it, and you supported the football club, you apparently supported the club you love, and you prevented a full sale, so to speak. I mean, if Sheikh Jassim existed, apparently, but that's another conversation, of course. But I think that Man United needed a full sale. They needed the Glazers out, debt cleared. I mean, what would have that done for FFP and PSR if we cleared the debt? If we got rid of all the transfer fees we owe, and the club was bought fully. I mean, Man United accumulate their own money, don't they? They make their own money organically. I mean, we would have been up there, and we wouldn't have to worry about these things. And
100%.
It's a sorry situation that we're in. That Jim Ratcliffe has come in, I think, on the vanity project. I mean, he's just talking about the regeneration of Old Trafford and stuff which is nice. But I don't care if we're playing on Hackney Marshes as long as we're winning at the football pitch. You know what I mean? That's all I care about at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? So I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he goes in the summer and we go, wow, what a player that guy is. I mean, we can say, look, I don't deal with absolutes. I don't like to be doom and gloom all the time. Dorgu's a good player. Aiden Heaven looks like a good player as well. They brought in some good players there, young players, who are worth a lot more now. So let's see what happens in the summer. I do believe that we need to get rid of Marcus Rashford and Anthony. Hopefully they go. Batiste can't afford him, apparently, now. What they're saying, they want another loan. So I don't think that should be happening. I think Man United should just cash in on Anthony. In regards to positions that you feel that Man United could sign in the summer, are there any positions or players you're hearing about that Man United could be after in the summer?
At the moment, it's a bit quiet. I mean, there's that story about Onana maybe leaving, but again, it's not like Onana is good enough. I don't think he is. But in terms of priorities, if you've only got a limited amount of cash, I'm not sure unless they get a good fee for him, if that's a deal worth doing, just because you then look around and you know what it's. I mean, listen, you shouldn't really make excuses, but being a goalkeeper at Manchester United is you know, for basically what you just said then, is probably the hardest goalkeeping position in the world because, you know, of all the pressure and like it just becomes a whole other soap opera if he throws a couple in. But I think he's looking at all positions within reason. But I think a lot of it depends on you know, can they sell 2 or 3 players? Until that starts happening, I mean, you know, they will have lists. You know, you hear about there was a left back at Southampton or Bournemouth? What's his name? Kirkes, or I think they might be looking at him. You know, because of the Shaw thing. You know, will Shaw stay on? I mean, considering all the money that's been spent, even, you know, it was 200 million last summer under Ten Hag, and I don't know, you've got like Euro looks a good player maybe, and Ugarte looks good enough, but it just seems like another waste of summer, especially as Ten Hag. What I have found in doing this job since the last season and a half of Ferguson, right? So that's 13 years, is it? Is that after Ferguson, every summer has kind of been similar, Sal, in that you get to this sort of stage, April, you know, May time. Start looking at who they're after and think, you know, this could be quite good. I can see what they're trying to do. Then you get to sort of like, I don't know, September or October, you know, next season. And you're looking back thinking, God, they've blown it again. And so all these resets, all this instability, all this sort of like, you know, there isn't a solid foundation there. And, you know, just going back to the Ashworth thing, right? One thing that struck me is one of the reasons why you have a sporting director, supposedly, is within reason. Of course, it matters who the manager is, but within reason, the manager can change, but the sort of players, in terms of how good they are in the profile, how they play, doesn't, right? Yeah, so that means that you've always got a stable squad in terms of ability. And okay, you can have a manager who's better or worse at getting the most out of whoever it is, a head coach. But the point is, but they've got rid of Ashworth, and I don't really see, you know, the reason why City, I know United fans don't want to hear, the reason why City have done so well is 2 reasons. Obviously Guardiola, but Bergerstein has been there all the time, and they've got this structure, and they've kind of thrown it away straight away with, you know, Ashworth going and not replacing him. I know Wilcox is sort of doing the job, but it all seems a bit piecemeal. And that's a surprise. So, you know, here we are again in April, and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, look for a new centre forward, look for a new central midfielder, look for a new goalkeeper. But is it actually going to work? Hopefully it will, but it's just, you know, I'm so glad I don't support them. I mean, I said earlier, be optimistic. I've always said that to my son, who's a United fan. Yeah, Sonny. He's like 13. I think I've told him about him before. He's a massive United fan. I'm always saying to him, you know, be optimistic. But even he at 13 is like, you know, he sort of laughs. He has to laugh a little bit, like, as in, oh, here we go again with United. You know, but when I mean, listen, Forest should have won that game the other night. You know, United should have won it. Forest did nothing apart from score that goal. But even that, he looked at the goal and he's like, what is Harry Maguire, or whoever it was? What, you know, why is Garnacho not taking him down? You know, just be ready. You know, get a red card or whatever it is, a yellow. You know, just take one for the team. You know, even he's like, and you know, and he's sort of, he's been alive basically as long as Ferguson has not been at that club, right? So I know when he's a baby, he won't remember it, but basically all he can ever remember is this. You know, and all my working life in this job is basically this. This was a bit of a write-off. You might still win the Europa League, but it's been a bit of a write-off in terms of the league and transfers and, you know, the manager. You're down there. What can happen this summer? But I don't know. But I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to give them this summer in it. I'm going to do the Wilcox, Brailsford, Ratcliffe, Amorim thing. I'll go this summer because they've not had a full one together. I mean, obviously, Amorim wasn't there last summer, but, you know. So I just hope Amorim can have some sort of talk some sense into the rest of the club and say, right, this is who we're going to go for. I mean, what do you think of Amorim? Are you sort of, you know, I mean, I think he deserves a chance. I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that he should go, but they are all the way down there. And again, I feel like he's just been sucked into the vortex that is Manchester United since Ferguson left. But it's a very difficult place to sort of navigate.
Who's that? Ruben Amorim?
Yeah.
I'm behind him 100%. I don't think that changing the manager is going to do anything. I think every time Man United are a bit like a plant. Man United, you know, they're like a seed that needs to be grown. You know, and every time we start seeing the seed grow, we cut it off again, and then we start like again. And it's like that, to be honest. I just feel like I was around when Alex Ferguson before we had success, 1989, and people were calling for Alex Ferguson's head. You know, I was fortunate to see the Alex Ferguson years, and I find it very, very strange that people like me and other people who've been supporting the club a long time are backing the manager, but it's sort of the fans that have only been here for the last 15 years or so who are not supporting the managers, who are, let's cut the manager. They're looking at Chelsea, they're looking at these teams, and, oh, they done it, they're successful. Yeah. And this comparison thing that goes on, and then it just becomes a cycle of negativity, you know, oh, but look at them, Like Forest, for example. No offense to Forest, but Man United's pressure is a lot more intense than Nottingham Forest, you know. I mean, unless it's the early 1980s, you know, under Brian Clough, Man United are, you know, Alanga, for example, you know, how comes Alanga's playing so well? Look at Alanga, look at the way, but you've got to look at the circumstance. You've got to look at it in context. You know, Alanga's playing well because he's at a club that's comfortable. Man United are a toxic mess, and we have been for a long, long time. And being a very big club and underachieving as well, you know, it must be like running through cement every game. You know, it must be it's very difficult, you know. And I would say that we just need to calm down. If this time next season we're 10th, you know, then I could say, well, you know, I mean, he's got to do better than that. Come on, you know, he's got 5 of his own players in there and stuff. Yes. But even Dorgu wasn't his player. I mean, I remember talking about Dorgu before he came in. When Erik ten Hag was there. So that looks like an Ineos signing, that guy.
Yes.
But he's a good signing, but it looked like an Ineos signing. Yes. And I wouldn't judge him until he gets at least, 5-6 players in there of his own, you know, and we'll see what happens after. Even then, I'm not for sacking managers. I feel like not backing Jose Mourinho at the time was wrong. And then we ended up having to sack Jose Mourinho. I felt we needed to back him after he came second, and then he won the Europa League as well. And then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you know, make of that what you will. What Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, at least he came second in the league. He was a penalty shootout from being a success, of course, you know, and at Man United. So I just feel like we just need to calm down and just let Ruben Aaron do his thing. This tactics thing that's going on at the moment. These tactics. I find it very strange that we can go toe-to-toe with Liverpool. We can beat Man City. We can beat Arsenal with 10 men for much of the game. And yet, you know, the tactics don't work. I mean, sometimes we just need to look at what's going on as a whole, not just look at one person. He's the problem. We all know Amorim's a good manager. He's very clever. He's very smart. You've been in the press conferences with him. He's smart. You know, everything he says is the truth. Even when he spoke about Alanga leaving and other players leaving and doing well, he articulated it very well. In my opinion, and he understands what's going on. He is aging a bit like myself, very, very quickly. You know what I mean? You've seen him from his first day to now. I mean, I feel sorry for him, mate. I honestly do. I feel sorry for him as a human being because, you know, the pressure, as soon as he walked into that football club, Rashford situation. Do you know what I mean? That happened. And then, you know, he hasn't even sat his butt down on the seat and he's talking about Marcus Rashford and stuff. And this is the problem. This has been the story for the last 13, 14 years since Alex Ferguson left. You know, Alex Ferguson left a mess, I'll be honest. He left an absolute mess. David Moyes, I mean, I don't think was the right choice for Man United, in my opinion. I like David Moyes. I just don't think he had that certain something. The winning thing about him wasn't there. But he's a good manager, but that's about it, to be honest. Finally, I know you need to go, Jamie. I just want to talk about the right wing back position because Man United need a right wing back. There is obviously Frimpong available, most likely. But looking at Liverpool without a right wing back, maybe they might go after Frimpong. But there's also Roger Fernandes. These are the type of signings that Man United could make, which might be a little bit more feasible, cheaper. Could you see them going into like the Portuguese market, the South American market to find that bargain?
Yeah, I could. I mean, I think they're looking everywhere. Amorim obviously will know the Portuguese market back to front. You know what I mean? Being Portuguese and being very successful there. I kind of know a little bit about their operation in South and Central America. I think, you know, they would say, or they would like to think that they're across whoever's any good over there. I mean, you are right. I've never really got Dalot. I think he's okay, but, you know, I don't want to be rude about the guy. You know, he's a really nice man, and he's a far better footballer than I could ever dream of being in his right toenail. Do you know what I mean? But So I think you identify an interesting area. I mean, again, it's the money. One of the reasons, right, because I've talked to managers about this and sort of executives, one of the reasons why they don't like to talk too much, or if at all, about transfers in press conferences or publicly, is because they themselves do not know what the heck is round the corner with a certain, you know what I mean? They can sort of sit there and say, yeah, Frimpong, but they don't know if they'll have the money or if, Liverpool might go in for him and they'll be embarrassed, but, the great rivals are going to be the champions, so why would he not go there? There's all these sort of factors. And that's why it's very difficult to ever pin them down on anything, because, what could be true in football about a player signing one morning could be untrue in the afternoon, but no one has lied. It's just changed. You know what I mean? But it could look like, you didn't know what you're talking about. You thought you could get that player. You're just talking big just to impress the fans. It's, as far as I know, it's not really about that. It's about what I've just said. It's about not actually knowing 100%. And that's why they always say until the player is signed. But I go back to this thing, and this is what I'm told. They're gonna, they are approaching this market knowing they'll have to be smart. It's not going to be easy. They have to be nimble, and they're backing themselves to be able to do this. I've got a secret suspicion you're going to win the Europa League, which I know you're going to go, no way, don't say that, and don't get. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Manchester United, and you do have an X factor, even in this very, very, as you would say, unsuccessful period since Ferguson left. You've still won more trophies than Arsenal, I think, for example. Do you know what I mean? You still, you've won a European trophy. I think Arsenal got one of those in the mid-90s, maybe. You got 4 or 5.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, so there you go. So, and that's just one example of, and that's certain something that United have. The Fernandes one is interesting because, this, about what came up the other day. That I was in the press conference when he was asked about the link with Real Madrid, and he said, that's not going to happen. I just wonder what will happen if Real Madrid came in for Bruno Fernandes. I'm not saying they will do, but it's going to be very difficult for all parties to turn down if they sort of say, I can't remember exactly what he's called. I think he's got like at least 3 years left, maybe even 4. If they were to sort of offer, 80 million, I think that could be quite hard because of everything we're talking about. Yeah, not having much money, needing to rebuild the squad for them to turn down. But at the same time, my view would be, unless it's 500 million, or unless it's like 150 million, forget about it. Because how do you replace Bruno Fernandes? He is your one. You tell me if you might disagree, but I think he's basically your only bona fide, reliable performer week in, week out. You need like sort of 10 of those basically. You need 15 of those. You got one, so I think there'd be madness. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right about Frimpong or Fernandes. It'd be that sort of profile, that sort of player. Who knows? Maybe they've got someone coming up from the academy. I'm not saying it's going to go straight to the first team, but they have done all right in the academy recently. You can argue about whether Garnacho has really done it, but I think he's a good player. I think there might be something. That's what they're looking at. But this is all part of what I'm saying. That it is a little bit in a sort of elite football sense, a little bit like I don't know if you're old enough to remember Arthur Daly, right? The sort of wheeler and dealer. Yeah, it's a little bit like that. So United have got to be like him, yeah. Be able to sort of like duck and dive a little bit, but that's what the transfer market kind of is anyway. It is a little bit of a horse trading. Do you know what I mean? Circus full of spivs, full of characters. You know what I mean? Wheeling and dealing. So again, I go back to this. Let's see, how much of an Arthur Daly, Jason Wilcox is, or Brailsford or Ratcliffe, because they're going to have to be. It's going to be fun watching it and reporting on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because they're going to be, they call it fraud watch, but they're going to be under a watchful eye. Well, the fans are going to be under a watchful eye with Ineos. Definitely, So it could be an emotional summer, of course, and a lot of twists and turns, of course, silly season, of course. But, one thing about Ferguson you mentioned earlier, just quickly, when, you look at these signings, not all of them were household names. And we, probably the most successful signings we've ever done have been, names that we not familiar with. When you think about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ronny Johnson, Henning Berg, David May, Peter Schmeichel, these sort of people, even Dennis Irwin, you go back to players like that. These players are not household names, because you think about the 90s and you think about if Man United went out there and bought Stan Collymore, Robbie Fowler, and players like that, and that would be deemed big spending, but we always went out and got a bargain, like a Solskjaer, for example, and these type of players. Andy Cole's the only one I can remember being a household name in the 90s, and then I think Veron maybe, and that's about it. But other than that, let's wait and see in the summer. I'm sure it's going to be emotional, and I'm sure you're going to be busy, Jamie, with with Man United during the summer. Always. It's never sleeps. Man United and New Yorker football, it never sleeps. Do you know what I mean? But Jamie, thanks so much for joining me today. You're absolute legends. Guys, just to let you know, Jamie's book is out in June, Adventures in Love. The link is in the description. So don't forget to download that or pre-order that book now, guys. It's in the description. Thank you so much, Jamie. I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Definitely. Take it easy. Bye-bye, everyone.
Take it easy, pal. Thanks, mate.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers. That was Jamie Jackson, the legend of Observer, Guardian, Correspondent, music man, everything. Great to have him back on the show, of course, guys. Thank you, everyone, for all your comments. Really, really appreciate that. You guys are absolute legends, of course. We got a lot of stuff coming on the show. We got a lot of stuff coming in regards to Manchester United in the next few weeks and months. It's going to be an exciting stuff on Stretford Post, of course, guys. And let me just read out a couple of things in regards to Scott McTominay. I just want to read this out. Scott McTominay speaking in regards to being played out of position. Look, you know what do I think about this, guys? About Scott McTominay being played out of position, guys. Look, personally, I don't really care about Scott McTominay at the moment because at the end of the day, Man United now is what I care about. But Scott McTominay said, when I go into the first team, I was quite misprofiled when I was playing. He said, it wasn't the fault of any coaches. My strengths have always been getting into the box, scoring goals, and being a problem in there. But I was being used as a number 6 or as a centre-back, and that has never really been my game. But when we are playing for Manchester United and you're 20, you can't knock on the manager's door and say that you expect to be playing at number 8 ahead of Paul Pogba. It's not realistic. You have to know your place and do what you're asked to do. In the last few seasons, I began to get into the box a bit more, to score more goals, and then last year was my best one, of course. McTominay being continuously demoted in regards to him being demoted. Look, guys, in regards to this, there's a number of things in regards to this. I would say that, you know what, Scott McTominay, and I say it right now, he just weren't good enough. And that is it. I hate this era of lack of accountability at Manchester United. I hate this. It is like, you know what, let's blame everyone else but yourself. He wasn't good enough for Man United to take us forward. He weren't the worst. He was probably a good player. I wouldn't have sold him. But the thing is that, you know what, he just wasn't the guy to bring Man United to the next level. And I'm not saying that any of these players are. I just don't think he was the guy to bring Man United on to the next level. McTominay on being continually demoted behind new midfield signing. He said first it was Pogba, then Christian Eriksen, then Casemiro. But there you go. He's contradicted himself. He said that he didn't want to be a midfielder. He said he's basically a guy who gets into the box and scores goals. He's not a number 6 like Casemiro. They would always sign someone who wouldn't necessarily be the people expected him to be, he says. The pattern became familiar after a while. McTominay would slowly but surely win his place back, but by December, he would be integral part of the team once more. My mentality was that I always there, ready to go, ready to take my opportunity, he says. I always wanted to prove my worth, to show I could play every game. It's not the sort of thing that affects me. You can only be... Look, I wish Scott McTominay the best of luck. Naples is a lovely city, a beautiful city. My wife's from Naples, everything like that on top. And I wish him the best of luck, of course, guys. Absolutely. And it just didn't work out. And I think that we need to move on from Scott McTominay. Of course, it didn't work out. And Man United are in an era now where we have to really and truly think about the future, what's going to take us forward in regards to winning the league. And that, because that is what is most important at the moment for Manchester United, in my opinion. Absolutely. Guys, Glenel's out, says Triple M, big up Triple M. Ricardo, what's going on? Roger would have to be worked for right wing. He usually plays in the place of Garnacho at Braga. Ooh, there you go. Bruno FC, mate. Yeah, Man United. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Jamie Jackson hit the nail on the head there. Triple M. Bruno's a great player, but if Real Madrid came in with a 90 million offer, what would you do, guys? How would you do it? Would you sell him? He's getting on the other side of 30. So we have to remember that. We have to think forward. We can't keep relying on one player. We need to think about the team, and that's what we need to do as well. Absolutely. Matata, Sal, was Amorim wrong in his lineup and tactics against Force? I felt he made a couple of mistakes, Matata, if I'm being honest. I felt like he should have kept the team that was doing well before the break. And this is what life is about, Matata. It's about learning, isn't it? You learn. And you know what? He is new at Man United. He has only been there 5 months. He's going to make mistakes. What I would say about Ruben Amorim is that he should have kept Rasmus Højlund up front. He should have played Garnacho on the right-hand side where he's been doing well, getting crosses in, etc. And, Bruno should have been moving to that midfield. But you know what? Hindsight is a beautiful thing, of course, guys. Guys, it's been a great show. I want to thank Here I am. I wanted to thank everyone who's joined me today. You're all legends. And guys, please don't forget to smash a like on the video. And please, if you're new, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. Let me have said, I hate to say it, but put 90 million comes and sell him. Triple M, I'm going to tell you something right now. 90 million, it's a hard one. It's a tough one. But I tell you one thing, Triple M, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Real Madrid will buy Bruno for 90 million. That's just not going to happen, in my opinion. Absolutely not, guys. I will be back tomorrow for Breaking Dawn, guys. Don't forget to join me then, where I've got a great show coming up, guys, as usual, of course. I hate to sing my own praises, but guys, thank you so much. And please don't forget to subscribe, smash a like, put the notifications on as well. Drop a comment below, click the video, whatever you want to do, guys. Thank you, Jamie Jackson, again, for coming on the show again. Absolute legend. And guys, I'll see you tomorrow for Breaking Dawn. Take it easy. Peace.